Hello, it has been quite a little bit since I have filmed a video, and I apologize if I am rusty. I feel a little bit rusty, but I wanted to jump back into video making. I have definitely missed it, and starting back with just kind of a casual chit-chat about some books that I have read recently and really enjoyed, little updates and thoughts on what I'll be making in the future. But if you're new here, hi, my name is Lillian. I make videos about books and creativity and document some of my reading and writing that I do. I'm really interested in the art and the craft of storytelling at large, so if that sounds like something that you're into, feel free to subscribe and stick around for more videos that I'll be posting in the future. I've certainly missed making videos, but I've also definitely missed getting to talk to you about books in the comments, so if you feel like it, let me know what you've been reading in the comments below. The good, the bad, the ugly, tell me about it. But I thought as a way to sort of ease back into video making, I would talk about two books that I read recently that I really enjoyed and I wanted to discuss with you all. I haven't been putting out my usual monthly wrap-up videos, and I think I might put a pause on making those for now. I do really love making videos where I get to in-depth talk about books, whether I dislike them or I like them, but monthly wrap-ups tend to be the videos that take the most effort and time on my part to make, and now that I'm working full-time, that is a little bit less easy to do, especially to the standard that I like to do. That being said, I think I'm going to pause on the overall monthly wrap-up videos. I will still definitely discuss books that I have been enjoying or disliking, but I think I'm gonna find a different way to kind of do that, and I might not talk about all of the books that I read within a month. If you're interested to know what I'm reading month to month, I will leave a link to my Storygraph account in the doobly-doo, and you can give that a follow if you like. But without further ado, let's actually talk about the two books that I wanted to mention today. See, I'm already back in the rambling mode already. These were two books that I actually read and reviewed for NetGalley, so I was given early access to copies of ebooks, advanced reader copies of these books before they were published, to read and review for the publisher at NetGalley, so thank you to them for that opportunity, and I ended up really enjoying both of these. They're both memoir essay collections, sort of touching on different topics. The first one being Arrangements in Blue, Notes on Loving and Living Alone by Amy Key. Like I mentioned, this is a memoir essay collection with musings on the author's life, Joni Mitchell's seminal album Blue, and the entangled themes of intimacy and loneliness. This collection is gorgeously written. The author herself is a poet, and you can tell in the way that she writes. Key talks about and explores this underlying expectation of society that we need to have a romantic significant other in our life in order to have lived a quote-unquote full life. I felt like I could see so much of my younger self in some of the things that Key is describing about her own life, some of the thought processes that she had when she was younger, and I really wish that this book could have existed and I could have read it in my early 20s because I think I really needed it. Nevertheless, it was still great to read at the age that I am now and be able to sort of reflect back on that time in my life. You read about Key going through this cycle of tethering her worth and selfhood to whether or not she has a romantic partner or romantic interest in her life, and tending to fall into the trap of building up an ideal or romanticized notion of this person, becoming enamored with that idea, and then having your heart broken when that person doesn't live up to that ideal, or you realize the reality of that person and that image is sort of shattered for you. Over the course of the collection, we start to see Amy Key breaking out of that cycle bit by bit as she learns to build a life for herself in a society that is often very much catered to couples. Loneliness is a theme that Key really muses on in a very personal and profound way. This is a collection that I found to be just overall fantastic. Really enjoyed it. If it sounds interesting to you, I would recommend looking up some content warnings before going into it if that's something that you tend to do. But this book came out this past May with W.W. Norton and Company, and again, I'm really grateful to have had the opportunity to read it before it came out and review it. The other memoir essay collection that I read and reviewed for NetGalley recently is A Life of One's Own: 9 Women Authors Begin Again by Joanna. This collection definitely intermingles biographic snapshots of 9 famous female authors with Joanna Biggs' own life and experience as a female creative, along with her own experiences that have happened over the course of the last several years for her. These sort of big life-altering events that happened in her life, her marriage falling apart and getting a divorce, and her mother getting diagnosed and passing away from Alzheimer's in her mid-50s. And while that is happening, her daughter Joanna having the experience of taking care of her mother at the end of her life and sort of reflecting on her relationship with her mother. And so while all of this is going on in her life, she starts to have a personal reckoning with the idea and the ideal of female domesticity, with her deep need to be able to create a life for herself that focuses on her own creative work. So while all of these big events are happening in her life, she ends up turning to these 9 female authors in hopes that their lives and their work will provide some semblance of a way through the sort of wreckage that she is experiencing in her life, the upheaval that's happening. I felt like this collection was really well done. I learned a lot from it about these 9 female authors, and I felt like Joanna Biggs did a really good job of weaving and intermingling the biographic content of these 9 female authors with her own sort of autobiographical narrative. Overall, I found this book to be a really wonderful meditation on literature, friendship, desire, the life of the mind, and the female writer's persistent struggle to create a space for herself and to be free to create. This book also came out this past May with Echo Press. And then I thought I might as well also mention 2 of the books that I started reading recently, but before I get into that, I wanted to talk a little bit about some of my thoughts on future content for stuff that I'm going to be making and putting on this channel. As some of you may know, I recently started a new full-time job that I'm really enjoying. It's going really well. But as that has sort of come into my life, I've sort of had to shift priorities and obviously rearrange my schedule to accommodate that. So it has definitely changed the amount of time that I have available to make stuff, and I definitely have less free time now. So at the moment, I think I'm definitely leaning more towards more casual, maybe vlog and chit-chat videos, kind of like this. I think I'm also tending to prefer shorter content on YouTube as of late. As much as I love, you know, getting to sit down and really dig into like a 20, 30, sometimes 40-minute video from some of my favorite creators, it feels like the majority of the people that I follow at the moment, and I think maybe this is just a trend across YouTube in general, is just longer form content, you know, content that tends to be longer than say 15 minutes. And I'm gonna have a millennial internet grandma moment here. I've been watching YouTube since I think 2008, 2009 when it first started, and back then, back in the day, content was not nearly as long as it is now. It's not nearly as short as say like TikTok and Instagram Reels are, but I think the standard of what I tended to watch back then was, you know, 10 minutes was kind of pushing it as far as length and time in a video. And there's definitely part of me that's kind of missing that, not short form content, but shorter than the current average of YouTube video length content. And so I definitely appreciate when people put out videos that are say between 10 minutes and like 17 minutes. That feels kind of like a good medium to me. It feels like I can watch a few of those videos and then not be 3 hours later. And so I think that's kind of what I'm looking to aim for. We'll see how that goes, just based on my penchant for rambling and my love of going in depth with books, but that's kind of what I'm going to try to do one, for my own sake and the amount of time spent editing videos, but also having it be a reflection of the content that I really enjoy watching at the moment. I digress. Let's talk about two of the books that I started reading recently, but the first one is one that I actually started reading yesterday, and that is Persistent Voices, Poetry by Writers Lost to AIDS. This is a collection edited by David Groff and Philip Clark, and as you might be able to imagine, this is a little bit of a heavier collection. Not all of the poems are reportedly about the writer's experience dealing with AIDS and the epidemic, but a good number of them also are. Now, I'm only about 15 pages into this collection, but I will say that the first page of the introduction had me in tears. So I will keep you updated on how the rest of the reading of this collection goes. I know it's definitely going to be a profound read, a necessary read, and one that I feel is very poignant for this time of year. It's Pride Month. And also just bearing witness to a part of history that I think is very often swept under the rug in society at large. And the other book that I started yesterday is Lady Chatterley's Lover, I think that's how you say it, by D.H. Lawrence. This was a very scandalous book that was published in 1928 and was almost immediately banned. It is on my list of classics that I would really like to get to this year, and I can definitely let you know that within the first 2-3 pages of this book, we jump right into talking about what Lawrence himself calls the sex stuff. Which I'm finding very amusing. I can only imagine the level of shock it must have given the average reader who opened this book in 1928 when it was published. But for me, as someone reading this in 2023, I get a chuckle every time that D.H. Lawrence describes it as, quote, the sex stuff. I'm also thinking about this book as something that one of my favorite TV show, and actually TV shows based on a book character. If anyone is familiar with Mrs. Fisher's murder mystery series with Franny Fisher, the main character, fantastic TV show, would highly recommend. But the main character is a female detective who is very, shall we say, a badass, a liberated woman for her time in the 1920s. And I think there's even a short scene of her reading this book in one of the first few episodes. It's one where a murder takes place in or on a train, and she's sitting on said train with this book, and it's just very ironic because at the time that this story would have been taking place, that book would have been banned, and it just feels like a very Franny Fisher book to read. Something that I'm also kind of noting about this book, and again, I'm only about 20 pages in, I don't think it's a classic because it is eloquently written or masterfully crafted. I think it's more likely a classic due to the fact of just its scandalous history and its scandalous nature, the shock factor that it sort of produced when it came out, and how it really pushed the boundaries for its time. So in that way, you could consider it a classic for sort of breaking the mold and changing the landscape of literature in that sense. I'm not going to say it's poorly crafted. I'm not going to say that at all. I'm only 20 pages in, but just the vibe that I'm getting so far is not necessarily a pinnacle of storytelling craft that I think a lot of classics tend to be lauded as. But I will definitely let you know how reading this book goes. But for now, I think that is going to be it, my friends. I really appreciate you being here, appreciate you watching, and I'm excited to be back and making videos in whatever capacity that I am able to for now. I'm still kind of shooting to do one video a week if I can, but like I said, I think they are going to be a little bit more casual, laid back than some of the more structured content that I've put out in the past. So if you enjoyed this video and you would like to stick around, feel free to subscribe to see more from me and this little corner of the internet. But I think it's time for me to sign off on this video, and I will see you in my next one.